All right, let's get the microphone test out of the way here. Let me know if you can hear me across the various chats, that being YouTube, X, and Twitch.com. And we're going to get rolling here in about a minute. Not too many people today, as I am streaming a little bit later than usual, and it's a Wednesday. So hopefully we'll get some people watching this back later on. But let me know if you can hear me across various chats, and then we're going to get rolling with this very shortly. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and get this rolling. Get the music turned off on my side over here. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner for a Market Madness live stream update on price action. Today is May 22nd, 2024. And we're going to look at Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Kaspa. We're also going to take a look at some runes as well today. Not going to have too many questions. Do want to start by apologizing. I am a little bit later than normal today. Had some issues going on with my son, who some of you may already know this, but to many others, he's got some issues. He is disabled and special needs, and he suffers from some pretty severe seizures. He kind of goes into tonic-clonic convulsive states, also known as grand mal seizures. And unfortunately, he's had an uptick in those seizures, and he had one last night. So I'm a little under the weather. He's doing fine. He recovered out of it just fine. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this a long time. I appreciate all of those that sent well wishes in the various servers earlier today when I did mention that was going on. And, you know, for those of you that might be concerned about that, he's in good hands. Mom and Dad have been doing this a little while, but unfortunately, he has been having a few more episodes of that. We're actively investigating that, and we'll get it all taken care of for him. But let's go ahead and jump into the Bitcoin price action to start with today. And we can see that Bitcoin is relatively, in the same area as yesterday's recorded video. So if you haven't watched yesterday's recorded video, all of the targets that I give there are going to be essentially the same targets that I give today for at least Bitcoin, ETH, and KAS. We're going to take and Sol rather, not KAS. I did not cover KAS in yesterday's recorded video, but I am going to cover it. There are some people who are interested in that coin and some people who even mine it. I have been looking into mining it for quite some while. I just haven't moved forward with the purchase of miners just yet. Now, Bitcoin, if you want to really dive deep into some of the other stuff that I mentioned in yesterday's video, go ahead and reference yesterday's recorded video. Today's going to be a little bit more of a free-form conversation where we go into some of the lower-term timeframes and kind of relate that to what's going on here on the daily in terms of this initial pullback. We can see, Bitcoin busted on through the $69,000 level. It fulfilled our $68,000 to $70,000 target all in one candle. In the lower term timeframes, though, we did see it pause in that area on the way up ever so briefly and then backtest. And that's actually what we wanted to see. And that's what you want to see in general when approaching overhead resistance. So, we did have the 15-minute rise up to around the $68,000 level here, and continued to, got an initial rejection in that area, very low term timeframes. began to come down, find support, and then just grind its way up sideways and then move through to hit just shy of that $70,000 area at 69,500. It began to move up through, topped out at around 70,450 before coming down for a beautiful, beautiful, perfect, picture perfect back test of the prior cycle all-time high there at $69,000. It then moved up to the next big zone, and I identified this in yesterday's video, and we've talked about it quite a bit as well. And that's kind of, that's the next set of highs here on the daily. So if we were to get this on the correct months here for the daily, we can see that we have a zone of resistance right around the two highs that were put in prior to the big move down to test and swing below the major closing supports down here from October of 2021 and the March monthly and quarterly of 2021 as well here. Now this area is acting as the next big resistance overhead, and that's falling anywhere between around 71.5 roughly to that wick high there at 73,835, which is the current all-time high. Now you will notice that Bitcoin above $69,000 and especially above, anywhere above the upper first standard deviation, it will get continued expansion to the upside. Now, if it can regain and close the daily above the upper second, coming into this overhead resistance here, which is coming in at around 70,800, well, that would be indicative of more aggressive upside expansion, likely doing a price replace band within this overhead zone by the all-time high here and upper third standard deviation on the daily, which is coming in right on that 73,835. So picture perfect up top there. And as long as Bitcoin is hanging out above the upper first standard deviation here, which is, we're going to call it around 67.7 to 67,750, basically strong above roughly $68,000 on a close to $69,000 here. So even stronger if it begins to start turning itself around in those lower term timeframes and heading back up, and specifically taking out its local wick high here at just under $72,000. Obviously, then we're looking, just a little bit higher here to around 73, or the deeper $72,000 area, and then the all-time high at 73,835. So above 73,835, I've mentioned this in yesterday's recorded video and just about every single recent live stream. I'm looking 75 to 78 to 80, and then mid to low 80s, and then possibly up to $90,000 there initially on breakouts. Now, what I do want you to be mindful of with this structure is, Bitcoin's digging itself out. So we had a downtrending structure here. We can go ahead and get rid of the Bollinger Bands for now, just so we can take a look at structure. And I can kind of give you, the picture that's being painted here is it's digging itself out. So it's not necessarily going to go all God candle. I mean, it kind of already did. You got $5,000 candles, two $5,000 candles to kind of break through overhead resistance, which is absolutely stellar to see. So we had the downtrending structure. We have the higher low that was put in. We broke the downtrend at 65,500. The next big area of resistance, was held, did hold price down, and that was 67,300. Held price down, even though there was wicks through it from, basically Friday of last week through Sunday. Monday, just straight shot up to the overhead resistance, and really the last resistance overhead before blue skies, and that being a blue sky breakout. For this particular higher low structure, now we have three of the main components intact. We have the trend shifting in on the lows for the higher low. We've got higher highs now. Really, what are we looking for next would be higher lows. Where would you want to see a higher low come in? Say that Bitcoin put in a high here locally. Realistically, you want to see it for immediate or more immediate upside. You'd want to see it holding that, $67,750 to $68,000, and preferably above the prior all-time high at $69,000. That would be the preferable area for more immediate upside tests. And realistically, we don't really have a high side structure outside of a swing here. So we have a swing high to a swing low that also put in a closing low here. And you really don't want to see Bitcoin trading and closing candles back below around 65,850. If it does start closing back below there, it's still in higher low territory relative to the major low that was put in here, which is a higher low at around 60,800 on the closes and 60,150 on the wick. But that would mean that Bitcoin's going to have to come down and test, a little bit further down. And preferably, if it's coming down to test, it can even save itself around this area where we see that horizontal line lining up with that 67.5, 67.3 area as resistance. Get a support resistance flip there. If it did wick down below 65,850, but close above, that would also be another scenario where we could see, maybe a swing lower low, but a closing higher low as well, which would look just fine. And realistically, I'm fine with any price action from here that is remaining above, the high side of these the higher low candles here, which is coming in where the confirmation was that set the low. And that's around 63,450 to 63,500. So realistically, Bitcoin can have nasty pullbacks, which would wreck a lot of late longs and a lot of breakout longs from this structure here, because many are playing either the inverted head and shoulders, or they're playing the bull flag, or whatever it is that they're playing. That would be pretty severe washout, I would think. If it did head down there. But if it did start to close at any point below 63,450, 63.5 area on the daily time frame, then it's kind of, eyes on this higher low. This is the danger zone. Anywhere below there, we're looking to the lower low again, which is, of course, coming in around that 58.8 March and monthly close and quarterly close, rather, from March of 2021 to around $59,000. And then right back to really test the lows around 58,200, and that wick low at 56.5. I'd be looking for even more than that, to be quite honest, if this was a major rejection that lost this last major higher low that was just set. As it stands right now, it's sideways and up. We have an uptrending structure on the daily. We have a beautiful trend shift going on some of the higher term timeframes as well, like the 2-day, which just opened. And, this also painting a classic price action inverted head and shoulders. Yes, it is a little bit of a slanted head and shoulders. I don't really think that this is playable as that. And if it is, it's already basically hit target. So in this case, I'm a volatility trader. You're not going to hear too much about patterns, but I will reference what I'm seeing around in the various, social media spheres like YouTube, X, sometimes even Telegram if you're still on there. Now in this case, we're looking at the same kind of areas for pullbacks. Also a 2-day order block right here around the upper first standard deviation, around 67 to 67, 750 or so. We have a little bit more leeway on the 2-day versus the daily. So again, you still want to see Bitcoin basically, for really aggressive areas, you want to see it holding like $68,000 to $69,000, but it can safely come down on the daily to around 67,750, and on the 2-day down to 67.7 without really doing any damage to, or much damage to, the expansive structure on these particular timeframes. And again, this is turning itself around on the 2-day. It's by the upper second standard deviation, wicked into the upper third overhead resistance as well, right there for confluence at a short-term rejective area. I would not be surprised if it came back down to retest, $65,000. From the way that this looks, you can see the basis band is also curling up, in and around the 64,200, 64.5 area. Again, this big green zone is a big green zone for a reason, between 65 and 69. Very, very strong above the prior all-time high at 69, obviously. But, could it come back down to 65? Absolutely. That is a possibility, of course. Just keep in mind the areas that it would need to break down from and where things really start to change. Below the daily swing low, which is also the order block wick low on the 2-day, which is that 65,850. Then we are looking down a bit further, into 65, mid to high $64,000 area. 3-day, again, beautiful, beautiful, breakout of the downtrend here. Swing higher low, complex lower low on a close, but swing higher low. And that is locked in. Bitcoin back testing the upper first standard deviation on the 3-day after getting a nice big candle up through the upper first after reclaiming the basis band here right into that overhead resistance. You can see that the upper second kind of governing, that 73 or upper 72 to $73,000 area just below the all-time high, which does mean that if it does begin to close above here on the 3-day, we're looking for expansion to and possibly above the all-time high and then continuation to new highs in a blue sky breakout manner. That's the 3-day, looks fine. 4-day is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is just, I love the longer term time frame look on Bitcoin right now. It's fantastic because it is, let's go ahead and get rid of a few things here. Because it is, it is in a compressive state at the moment. We went from expansion to just an absolutely beautiful compression where Bitcoin has tested the downside standard deviations of the compression, got, beautiful volatility support in those areas, did not close the 4-day, but on a breakdown of the range either. We did get a nice big wick relative to the 4-day and some deviation closures on the daily and some of the other time frames, but from the 4-day perspective, closing inside of the wicks here at around that $59,000, depending on your exchange, was kind of giving us the indication that this was going to at minimum hang out in the range for further compression relative to the 4-day Bollinger Band's beautiful expansion to compression. Now, if it does start closing back above the upper second standard deviation, has one more piece of criteria to complete. And of course, it can start completing that in time frames lower than the 4-day before it closes. So that would be your early indication that the 4-day would expand in a more aggressive manner. And that would be above the upper second standard deviation at 72,330 right now. And, the other criteria would be get that 4-day closure above the prior all-time high at 73,835. And then we're looking to somewhere around $75,000 to $76,000. Now, the upper third was, I believe, right around $75,000. So 75 to 78 is pretty safe, especially if it starts to expand. It can, of course, expand through the upper third on the initial expansion as well, which would look really, really, really beautiful if it can complete this particular move. I'm going to be watching this very closely because we have the 4-day, 3-day, and the 2-day all closing in 1 day and 5 hours. So that would put it at, the end of the Thursday coming into Friday candle. So we will see a beautiful close open for these time frames. Today's Wednesday, so it'd be Thursday into Friday candle. We will revisit this then on the Friday live stream. When looking at the 5-day, we're seeing the same thing, not quite as aggressive on the compression just yet. Now we will see this closing Friday coming into Saturday, but, beautiful swing of the basis. Didn't even directly tap on the lower first. Of course, we're getting that compression now, very low volatility read there for BBWP, indicating that we start seeing this close above the upper first. We're going to see a little bit more of a volatility increase even. And then start heading towards that upper second, which is at 75. And then any expansion above there, any closures above the upper second on the 5-day, which is around 75, I'd be initially looking for short-term price action to that 75, 78, possibly 78 to 80 by the upper third. Any closures above the upper second would kick off full-on expansion on the 5-day. And of course, that would also complete criteria of closing above the current all-time high at 73,835. So it would look beautiful. We can see that the 5-day is, oops, this is all squished. Give me just a second to fix this. This is a regular Stoke, not a Stoke RSI. So this is, this is measuring close over close price momentum, not the velocity or speed of RSI. In this case, we do have an initial cross up in place here. So coming into Saturday, I'll remind you of this on Friday and probably even reference it in Thursday's recorded video. But any closures above around $66,000 here, it's saying 65,900. I would say 66 just to be safe. We will see a completed shift in momentum on the 5-day chart here. So look beautiful. let's go ahead and just head down into, some of what I'm looking for on the 12 hours. It relates to what we just talked about here. So on the 12-hour, things are a little bit more clear. So as you go into the lower term timeframes, we can get a better bias on what is happening and what we should be looking for relative to the daily, right? So we've got that overhead resistance. We've got the underside supports here. So from a structural point of view, this is a beautiful expansion on the 12-hour. And if it's going to remain very strong and trending, it's going to maintain above the basis band. Now, the basis band is also above the prior higher low on a swing and a close here. So we on the 12-hour, we did get a closing high to a closing low structure, and that's that same swing high in the daily at around 67.7, and the swing low there at that 65,852. Now, if Bitcoin were to break down below its current upper first and lose $69,000, I would expect it to head towards the basis band. The basis band is right now around 66,500. I would expect it to move a little bit closer to $67,000. So the 12-hour, that in-between time frames, get 2 12 hours with every daily. In the next 12-hour that's going to close with this daily, we're going to see this update. You do not want to see closures below that 65,850. That would be an uptrend break, not only on a swing, but also a closing basis for the 12-hour. So you do want to see this structure maintained. Can it swing it and deviate from it down to this, 65 or so, and maybe even test the next swing low here at 64.5? Sure. That just means that if we do start seeing closures below the basis and then lose that low at 65,850, then we are looking down to that main downside support somewhere around $65,000. Swings below are acceptable. You can see 12-hour support on closes are right around there as well. And we would likely see the lower first standard deviation really aggressively moving up into that area. Now, if it did start to really dump out before then, this is of course hypothetical, lose all these supports, you can see that the big criteria that I was looking for on the daily, like kind of the line in the sand for the bulls, is 63,500. That's where the current lower first is. But I do expect if Bitcoin, especially hanging above $69,000, if it's going to remain above there, we're going to see the lower first start to move into the support somewhere around $64.5 to $65,000. You want to see Bitcoin maintaining closures above this last higher low on a close and a swing for the 12 hours specifically at 65,850. Starts breaking down below there, we mark down a little bit to that $64.5 to $65,000. But any closures then below the basis band, of course, that would be below the current level of the basis band. Then we do have to pay attention to the lower first, so on and so forth. Now, that would just be indicative of a longer period of consolidation, possible reaccumulation, especially if it was holding in the $64,500 area. If it starts to dump out below there, it's going to endanger the higher low structure on the daily. So keep that in mind. If it's going to maintain its strength, it's going to hang out above the basis and upper first. And, it might even get a close open where it goes sideways. The upper first passes it. Then you look to the basis. If the lower first is above the low side structures here at around 65, 64.5, 65, and then subsequently ends up above 65.5 and maybe even $66,000, then the lower first is safe to be tagged. What you want to see is the volatility levels, the lower volatility levels on the bands start to get above areas of support, or in this case, higher lows. And then it's safe to tag without breaking any structure. Then you're looking at more of a consolidation, reaccumulation, and then for expansion from there. In this case, if Bitcoin can maintain its more aggressive posture above the upper first and then start taking this overhead resistance at around 71,622 and then subsequently take out around 72,300 by the upper second, we're looking right to the all-time high again, somewhere around 73,835 to guess where? The upper third around $75,000. So that would look very good. Now, what you're going to see and what I would prefer to see on Bitcoin on the 12-hour is a nice bullish reset. We saw nice bullish resets on price during the initial moves up during the uptrend. So I would want to see bullish resets on Stoke here relative to price. Closures on the 12-hour above $71,000 would do that from here. Now, keep in mind that if this is pointed down in the next closure with the daily, that number will also come down. So it'll be, probably somewhere around $70,000, maybe 69,500, who knows? And if Bitcoin's going sideways, recovers it, it gets a nice bullish reset. Keep in mind that the daily is pivoted at around 70,700, 70,800. And of course, we have a more aggressive $71,000 in the 12 hours. So if we did start to see, a fully confirmed cross down on the daily, again, that's where I'd also be looking for Bitcoin to maintain its uptrending structure and then get a nice bullish reset relative to the 2-day, which is sky high above 64,800, almost $65,000. 3 days sky high above 61,850, which is very good. So I'd be looking for bullish resets on these time frames, on the lower term time frames relative to these longer term time frames. The 4-day is pointed up above 62,230. 5-day is shifted to the upside. 65,850 is going to be the pivot there. And of course, that's the pivot that we just talked about on the daily and 12-hour. We do want to see that area hold up on any moves down below $69,000, basically. It does have room. 8 hour is going to be pointed down. On any closures below 70, you're going to see more aggressive targets on some of these time frames as we go down because Bitcoin's kind of consolidating sideways, had nice moves up. 71,323 is going to be the pivot there. The 6 hour is going to be 70,250. So we're starting to get a shift here. And the 4 hour has the potential, if it can trade above 70,300 by end of day, to shift back up. 3 hours full on reset here. I would like to see a full on reset here. Bullish, while maintaining above $69,000. That would be very bullish on that 3 hour. 70,000, almost 600 there. 2 hour is pointed back up. So lower term time frame saying that does want to try back up on any closures above 69,630. Hourly is going to be flippity floppity 70,100, 70,150. So, this is indicative of consolidation after breaking out, hitting resistance, and then trying to hold the support that it just recovered. Once it sets in a base of support here, then we can, keep looking at that top side to get tested. Starts closing back above 71,600. We're looking at it to, running the all-time highs basically. And the 15-minute, trying to set a low here. Momentum shifted back to the upside. Even has a beautiful cross on RSI above its moving average here. I would like to see a little bit more regular bullish divergence building here. There is some, but this is a consolidation first. Freshly broken out above resistance and trying to hold and flip that resistance into support again. So nothing out of the ordinary here. Let's go ahead and move on to a few other things here. And I did mention in my recorded video, ETH was already painting a very, very beautiful, and, it was on the edge, but it was painting a beautiful set of bull divs and on the daily and higher term timeframes and was ready to move. Of course, speculation based on the increasing odds of it being approved for an ETF by the SEC relative to what Congress just passed with the crypto bill stuff through the House. It has not hit the Senate as far as I know yet. Maybe it did today. I've been busy, obviously. But, this was already setting, it had already set a bunch of lows, had multiple drives of bullish divergence. So this was already ready to at least test. And it was setting that low, back tested its area for where it set the low coming into Sunday. Could that have turned into a lower high? Absolutely. My point in yesterday's video was that it set a swing high, swing low structure to a higher low structure, right? So it was a downtrending structure. It was still lower lows, did not pass the swing lows, right into a big support zone over here. The line in the sand was this red wick here at around 2720. It didn't even go for that area. So, that was kind of my bias breaker, is like, if it was going to head down much lower, it was going to get below about 2,700, 2,720. It did not do that, through a bunch of bullish divergence and started to crawl its way out of that support zone. So that was already an indication that at minimum, it was going to test the downtrending structure to go and try and break it. And it just happened to do it all in one shot, and obviously Bitcoin having a beautiful Friday as well, breaking out. ETH was lagging. So what it did is, relative to Bitcoin and some of the other altcoins that have been very strong lately, it made up a ton of ground all at once. And that's kind of to be expected with something that was lagging like this. Now, what's more interesting to me though is that it broke right above, broke the downtrending structure at 32,220, and then 32,550. 3350. Man, I'm like calling it Bitcoin numbers here. Sorry. 3350. And, headed right to the big area here at 3,500 to around 3725, 26 area. Now, what's more important is that it broke out and closed above. So we are seeing relative strength. You can see how this area was initial support for a run up to the May and August of 2021 weekly closing high. Now there is a direct swing high over there from December of 2021 as well. And that's between roughly 3,950 to 4K to around 4,150 to 4,200, depending on your exchange. Here on spot, it was a little bit lower than some of the derivative exchanges. So I would say, as long as it's holding above this zone at about 35.20 to around 37.25, and it can dip in here if it's going to maintain its more aggressive upside posture to go and hit around 39.50 to 4K, then it's going to remain up on the top side of this support area. I would, to be quite honest, it has gotten a nice back test today, but I would actually like to see it dip a little bit further in, grab some liquidity before heading up, but it's not going to necessarily do what I want it to do. But rough overhead targets for right now is going to be 39.50 to 4K, 41.50 to 4,200. Above there, I'm looking for an all-time high run, to be quite honest, and probably in a more aggressive fashion if it's going to do it. That would be the November 2021 monthly closing high up there at 46.34 to around that 48.50 area, 48.70 or so. I'd basically be looking somewhere around 5K if it's going to swing it. Looks really nice. Nice breakout structure, but it's just getting started. So if it does head back down, the sky is not falling. You just want to see it maintaining above this swing higher low at around $3,050, and it's looking good. Really strong, even above, even if it lost this little support resistance zone, really strong above wherever the upper first is, because that would be continued expansion. Right now, we'll call it 3,400. So that would also put it above the downtrending wicks here. So relatively speaking, it could even, back test this area. You can see that there's lows that coincide with the rejections here on the downtrend. So could it potentially, get to those areas? Yes. You don't want to see it falling too much further from there, though. Basis band is just above the last swing higher low and closing higher low. And, it was a swing higher high. Looks good. This is also telling us last week, I think I referenced this last week, that we were seeing a momentum shift. So this was, the momentum shift confirmed on Wednesday of last week into Thursday. So, was already giving us the bias that it was going to at least test up. The news exacerbated the FOMO. It looks really good. So, and it's really good on the daily above 3360 right now for momentum. So keep that in mind. It is trading around 37.41 right now, but that number will aggressively rise. I'd like to see another drive of bullish divergence coming from some of these lows over here. But, this is a move in progress. We're getting expansion. We're at a BBWP level of 100%, but the moving average is chasing, letting us know that this is continued targets to the upside as long as it is maintaining its expansive structure. And, in order to continue to do that, very strong above 3,500. So that would be ETH. Let's go ahead and take a look at Sol. Sol has been very, very kind. You can see Sol is, Sol just basically got its move early. It's been moving up since the beginning of May. had a nice back test of its zone that it lost, had a nice double bottom on lower low with divergences. Like we had all the same kind of stuff going on with alts in terms of the majors here. Moving into the bullish control zone looks really nice, but nice big moves up. Once it broke out from, put in some higher low structure on a close, swing lower low, and then specifically took out 160, which is the area, roughly 155 to 160. It's kind of the line in the sand for the integrity of the current move up, as that's also where the basis band is heading up to, around 156 right now. Above 160, very strong, going to keep heading up in my opinion. And especially strong above this little order block by the daily upper first at around 169. Nice. And, you could take the top side of that around 172.5 to 173 as well. But the after breaking out of this consolidation structure, what we saw was a move right up to the 175, 176 area. A little bit of short-term resistance. Of course, again, this was over the weekend. Everything moved up on Monday with Bitcoin and ETH, and ETH leading the way, of course, on Monday. To go and test the low side of the highs here, got a first pass rejection, and now trying to hold up, around the 175 area with the wick low on the daily today coming in there. We're likely to see the upper first move to the top side around 172 to 175 after today's closure. So, if you want to see this continuing to move up, it's got to get it back above the upper second at around 184 to 185 and go test these highs up around 188 to 190 above there. And I would be looking for a continuation into, 195 to 200 up here, and then 200 to 208 to 210, which is the overhead resistance, which is the prior all-time high zone from prior cycle, from the bull market in 2021. Now, this is a big zone between 208 and 260. I'd give it room to tap on it, swing into it somewhere around, 205 to 210. If it starts digging in there, it's a pretty big volatile zone between, basically 210 to 260. You got a $50 overhead resistance area. Now, looks really good right now. I like the breakout. I like the momentum shift. Is it looking a little tired on the daily? Yeah. If you do start seeing it close, back below 169, then just be aware of the 160 area. 155 to 160 is where you want to see things generally hold up, and then get a bullish reset on the momentum oscillator here for Stoke. 2 days still pointed up on any closes above 166. 3 days looking strong above 140. 4 days looking beautiful above 141. 5 day, I believe, is looking beautiful above 152. And a beautiful shift back up, by the way. And weekly's looking across back up anywhere above, guess where? 160. So looking great on the weekly time frames. And the weekly is, set a beautiful low on divergence. If it can maintain this, we're probably looking somewhere around, bull critical zone is right here at about an 80 read. So between a 62 and an 80 read up here, we've got the bullish control zone at 166, bull critical zone, which it has passed in the previous highs. It's placing right now, this will update at the end of the week, placing price at around 315 to 320. So it's currently coming in at 317. So big moves in the cards if the weekly can complete a breakout sooner rather than later on a momentum shift. That would be very nice looking. Now, obviously, if it were to push even further than that, user alert level is the highest level that it's gotten to in this particular bull run for it. But it's making up ground back to its all-time high, but that's coming in around $490, almost $500. I can't say whether or not it would hit that. That'd be very aggressive, and it would avoid initial bearish divergence from the local highs that it just put in. But, it would be throwing bear divs anywhere below there from the one, like the 101 area on a close. So just be aware of that. Now, let's get into the next one here. We're going to look at KAS. KAS has been very strong for a very long time, and I have not talked about it on a live stream in a long time, but I do own quite a lot of KAS. I may even start mining it. We'll see. But this is a structure you don't fade. This is giving me early Link vibes, where Link was just powerful all the way through the bear market into the bull market. But then, of course, what happened? Link has been sideways for quite a long time now. But KAS looks great on the weekly. In fact, I really like the structure that it's painting on the weekly now. You're probably not going to hear me say that I like the monthly, but I like the weekly right now. This is beautiful uptrending structure, higher high, higher low structure. And, at some point it's going to end. But in the context of a bull market, I don't think that we're going to see any kind of distribution anytime soon on this. Now, there is criteria for that. If it starts to break down below about 10 cents, then that's a problem. So just keep that in mind, around the 10-cent region. Bad news bears. We're looking for expansion, possibly even down to 7.5 cents. That's not my first take on what's, happening here, though, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get the box on the chart here. This is basically swing to swing, so I'm giving it room. That's its primary support between 7.5 to 10 cents. I would not want to see it closing below 10 cents, to be quite honest. That would start to change the picture on the longer term timeframes. But overhead resistance, pretty clear, and possibly in the cards here. So we have 17 cents to around the 18-cent region, almost 20 cents. I had a question earlier today from Bello over there at Pepe Ordinal's Maxi that, hey, could this hit $1? Is $1 incoming on this? Yeah, it's possible. I don't know if it's going to happen this cycle. Is it possible? Maybe. But let's see. We have a beautiful consolidation structure with higher highs and higher lows now looking to be set on this week. Now, what you want to see this week or coming into next week is the prior closing low being held, the closing low that's kind of already been set, not necessarily confirmed. The swing low has been confirmed. I need to see closures above around 13.5 cents by the end of this week to call this a closing low. And I might even say you want to see it above 14 cents. Above 14 cents, this thing's going to run 15 cents to around the highs here at 17 cents again. Anywhere above 17 cents, it's getting expansion at minimum back to the highs on the weekly. Looking at 18, almost 19 cents up there. Above there, we're looking for blue skies again, and that would be a beautiful, beautiful breakout structure. And that is kind of where I am right now. So locally, I want to see this area taken out. You can even be more aggressive to that 15.5 cents, but I would say more locally, you want to see this more local order block taken out on the daily and weekly time frames. Starts reclaiming it on the daily. That would look really, really good. Let's see, we're going here. So between 14 and 15 cents overhead resistance, immediate overhead resistance. Above there, I would be looking for things to at least test in and around the deeper 16 to 17 cents by the weekly upper second. Anywhere above there, I'm looking for the all-time high and higher at around, just under 19 cents. And then anywhere above there on a close, especially, I'd be looking for a breakout. This looks really, really good. And what is also looking really, really good is the potential on any closures above 12.5 cents by the end of this week for this to get a momentum shift back to the upside. This is powerful looking. Now, I will say the monthly is looking a little exhausted, but because it's so young, I'd give it a chance to turn itself around. 2 week back above 15, 16 cents looks good. That weekly is really, really, really beautiful, though. 5 days already pointed up above 11 cents. Yeah, man, this is so pretty. Now, it is finding resistance around the, the bias breaker for the bands here, which is the basis band, but it starts breaking out above 15 cents, man. Wow, this is going to look good. It's going to look very good. Now, we can derive a few shorter term targets based on the pullback that we just got. If this is going to be the low set, we can look above the high here. We can get 22 to 25 cents, basically between the 1272 and the 1414. Above there, the 1618 at around 28 to 30 cents. Well, it's actually 28 cents. And then 1786 is around 30 to 31 cents. Through the 2 spot up here at 35 cents. Really aggressive upside would place it around the 272 to the 2414, possibly even the 2618, and that's bracketing around 40 to 42 cents all the way up to 50 to 52 cents. So those are potentials. That is not necessarily, a given or a guarantee. At minimum, breaking out above the all-time high here, I'd be looking for 22 to 25 cents or so between the 1272 and the 1414. That is provided the 10 cents holds up. Looks beautiful. I love this chart. I also love the gains just from buying and holding on this thing have been incredible. Incredible. I would be very careful moving into, bear market cycle and the next bull market cycle that we could potentially see a massive consolidation like what we're seeing on Link. But, Stinky Linky's been going sideways for a while. Link Army's a little tired, little beat up. But I'm sure they'll come roaring back, and we'll see what happens with Link again. But KAS has been eating everyone's lunch for quite a while now, even remaining very strong today. So cool. That is going to do it for the bulk of the analysis that I have for Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and KAS. Let's go ahead and move on over to everyone's favorite shitcoins, the shitcoins on Bitcoin, and that is RUNES. So let's go ahead and look at Dog. Dog's got a breakout. Hey, I want to show you something here. This is why we draw these fancy lines. We had a beautiful reaccumulation structure occurring, and this was back above 0.22, 0.23 cents. We had the lower low deviations put in, had a beautiful deviation down here on volume, and then a move right back up through a high volume area that it found support in, and then started to blast off. The green line was front run, and that was around 0.003 cents is where the front run came in, around 0.0032 actually. First front run was around 0.003, 0.0031 to 0.0032, almost 33. And then the move through 0.00369, no less. We did see a nice move up, consolidation, then it's continuing to move up. You might be thinking to yourself like, wow, that's crazy. Why is it doing this? Well, I mean, it changed structure here on the 4 hour and had a downtrend break all the way back here. And we talked about this. We can even get rid of this, these drawings here. We don't need them. We can clean this up, but it was pretty clear that, initially on the moves down and the swing below the lows, that, when it bounced back up, wherever the high was put in is the high that it needed to break for the downtrend. If it had bounced up above here, it would have broken the downtrend already. And that was when it bounced from the actual lower lows, but it put in a high at around 0.00248. And pretty clearly to break the downtrend, that was what it needed to do. And it did something very, very nice. You'll notice here, it put in a higher low, right? So put in a higher low, which also happened to come in right at the prior lower lows before the deviation here on the 4 hour. Deviation down, puts in a lower high, spikes down into the prior area that was the breakdown, retests that, gets bullish divergence, by the way, in those areas, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Let's see. It did get like a slight bit of bullish divergence. It's just too long of a period to actually call it out. Nice higher low structure, breaks the downtrend right here. The next area it needed to take was the 0.00649, 0.002649. It took that area pretty easily. And then where did it find the next big higher low? Well, it found it on the trend break. So it found it right there at the 0.002473. Yeah, 2473. And then next, thing that it needed to do is take out its highs. It did so, and it's now blasting off. So, I mean, we had a very clear 4 hour trend shift, and then the higher low is typically where you'd want to get in if you are trading. So we had the expansion to lower first retest, and then beautiful structure hanging on and retesting the breakout and trend change. So that was telling you everything you needed to know about what was going on here. Even if you were late, you got in good at 0.02656 if you were trading this on exchanges. So that was the big one. We did have, initial resistance and around the next big downtrending high. And, it kind of passed it and then sat on top of it, deviated a little bit below it. It didn't even go back and retest some of these structures, though. It's so new that I wouldn't actually, kind of burden it with that because it's such a young trading asset on exchanges. So in this case, it is a little bit more subjected to the forces of which you could almost consider OTC market or the asynchronous exchanges of DOG in this case. But nice breakout above this downtrend, reclaimed the lows over here where it found initial resistance on these lows over here. Very, very nice. Next big area to break out to or break out from would be 0.004392. So basically 0.0044 cents. Then we're looking for a run back to where it opened at just under 0.005 cents at 0.00495 on a close on that lower high, and then start pushing those highs above 0.005 cents to 0.0057 cents or so. And that would, this was a nice reaccumulation structure. You can draw some patterns on here. I don't think it's worth it. But nice reaccumulation to a trend shift and a retest of that trend shift, which is telling you go, go, go. This is a beautiful long play. Not financial advice, of course, but looks very good. Next big areas, of course, like I said, is in the immediate short term, you're looking just overhead at around 0.0044 cents to 0.0045. And then above there, we could start marking up probably pretty quickly to 0.005 cents and above to where it opened on these exchanges. So that's going to be a big one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next big cap here, and that is RuneCoin, which is not necessarily quite as strong right now, but I can tell you that this is a beautiful shift. One of the dangers is here on RuneCoin, and maybe this would send it into more of a reaccumulation structure, is that it is finding resistance and unable to close above 1.1 cents. So because it is unable to close above 1.1 cents here, we need to see it close above there. And now the next criteria is going to be this wick high here at about 1.08 cents. It's got to get above there, and the upper second standard deviation just above at 1.1 cents. So if it can do that, I'd be marking up somewhere to around 1.2 to 1.3 cents. Above there, 1.3 cents or so. If it can recover even these lows, that would be a good one. That's where it's rejecting right now at just over a penny at 1.07 cents. If it can get above there and start reclaiming the next one, which would be the 1.1 cents, then we can start marking up to some of these high side structures, almost 1.2 to 1.3 cents. So above, we are looking to 1.1.5 to 1.7, 1.6 cents or so, and back to the highs, basically what DOG is doing. Now this is a beautiful trend shift. We had the downtrend. We then had the higher low, higher high, lower low consolidation structure down here, and then push up to the red line, which is this big volume-based wick low over here at 0.0082 cents, and then move up to the actual green area, which is what I wanted to see. And you could even take this on like a close open, which to be quite honest, it held very, very nicely. This area here is kind of the big zone. We can even shift this back to yellow here. This was the big zone that we needed to see hold, and of course break and then hold. And then much like what we saw on, DOG, once it broke this area at around, 0.0091 cents and then retest, but there's direct overhead resistance. So you do want to see it start busting out above there and then start marching towards that 1.3 cent region to really start breaking out. So you don't want to see it right now losing 0.009 cents. That's really where this kind of starts to break down. Then we're looking for more long form accumulation in the lower 0.008 cent region, somewhere around the red line. You don't really want to see this break down below 0.00869 cents. Nice. That would be a structure change, likely to send things further into consolidation and testing down, 0.008, possibly even down to, that would be the lower first, possibly even down to retest this low at 0.007 to 0.0072 cents. So be aware of that. At this current moment, it's looking a little bit more bearish. A lot of the attention is on a lot of the other coins that are already trading over there. You've got like Donald Trump is ripping. You've got Dog. Even Epic is just this is just a vertical. Like somebody figured out that this was the rune that is attached to the actual Epic sat. Like somebody figured it out. It was like, oh my God, this is cheap as hell. And now this is just blasting off to outer space. It's at 11 cents right now. This thing was trading down at 3 cents at one point. This is not something that would have been chartable. You got to understand there's only like 1 or 2% of supply floating around out there. So be very careful with the Epic sats, because people who got blobbed from the blob ordinal are the ones who are going to, and community collaborations are going to be the ones that get the drop for the rest of the supply. And that's not even close to happening yet from what I can gather. So just understand that. This is an unexpected thing, but anybody who is keeping track of it, or has a blob, is likely going to get a large majority of the supply. More supply means that there will be downward pressure. So wherever we start seeing really high highs being put in, then over time, this is likely to, continue for a little while until we start seeing that supply come on board. We have, game of Bitcoin is going into a sideways consolidation. It still needs to break out above around 45 cents to go test 50 cents. Nothing crazy there. Lobos, also big move up. It's in a wider consolidation. It even tested our area down here at 0.000. Right? Is there 3 zeros there? Yes. 0.0005 cents. It is now, back above, to be fair, the green zone, at 0.00074 cents. Need to see it take out 0.00819, or basically 0.00082 cents, to go start testing the big area that we want to see recovered around 0.0009 cents. Man, that's a lot to say. We even had Satoshi put in a trend shift. Finally, downtrend broken right here. And once it broke the downtrend, we are looking at lower low structure, even on a close here, as this, my white lines where price is being held down are starting to populate, but above 140, 141, you can even see the back test of the breakout right here, and then the move to 160 to 180 to the next highs. We need to see it closing above here. Kind of already swung this closing structure up here. We need to see it close. It did regain the lows over here. So the next big low that it's got to regain is around $1.80. I would say, it's already tested the high around $1.86. If it can recover above there, it's quickly going to move to $1.95 to $2. But it might need to cool down. It's looking a little hot to trot. Maybe it gets a bullish reset above 171 and tries to go for it on that expansion. It's not fully done with the expansion yet. 92 over 89. It's getting close, but this could get some continuation. Looks very, very good right now. This is what you'd want to see. This is a reaccumulation to downtrend break and a new uptrend forming. The next major overhead areas is going to be around 240 to 250. That's the biggest overhead area. Right now it's at the $1.70 to $2 resistance, basically, which is this low side structure with this high over here at just under $2. So $1.70 to $2 is the main overhead resistance right now. Above there, it's a pretty big markup to around 250, 240, 250 area. And it would probably race to get there. Not a lot of liquidity on the exchanges, so all it takes is like one big buyer. Wanko Manko, nice reaccumulation, still in that reaccumulation here. Higher low reaccumulation relative to the lower low structure over here, but you know, it got its downtrend break finally, and you can see they're all doing the same thing. So got its uptrending structure going here. Big, nice move back to the basis, continued to bounce on the strong half of the bands here, and then headed up to break the downtrending wicks and closes here. Got a nice close right on that close around 17.5 cents or so, almost 18 cents. And it's now testing that 19 to 20 cent overhead resistance. It hasn't quite hit the 19.75 cents. If it can get above there, it's a big, big area. If it can blast off above there, we're looking at 20 to 25 cents probably pretty quickly. And then 30 cents is the main big bias breaker. It's gonna look more like, you know, a nice reclaim of the rejected areas, right? We rejected this low side structure after listing. It was straight down, bounce, rejected this low at around 25 cents. Above there, we're looking at 30 cents pretty quickly, and probably, you know, back to retest some of the, you know, 35 to 40, possibly even up to 50 to 60 cents and beyond. I don't think it's ready, to be quite honest. I would like to see more consolidation. I think if this were to spike up, I think you're going to get a lot of sell pressure. Now that's a little bit different than what we're seeing on Epic. This is people figuring out that this is, you know, minted on the rare sat, or the Epic sat that was mined on the Bitcoin halving. But again, the supply dynamics, only a fraction of supply is circulating right now, like a small fraction of the supply. So just keep that in mind. All right. I think that is going to do it for me today. I've got a lot of stuff to do, and then I'm still exhausted. My son's going to be home from school. He ended up going a little bit late today because of what I explained at the beginning of the stream, but he's having a blast, so he's going to go get picked up. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to open it up for questions today. I do appreciate all of you who, you know, whether you're just coming in a little late, you want to get some of the analysis stuff out of the way, go ahead to the beginning of the stream. I skip the pre-stream stuff, get right into Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, KAS, Runes, just wrapping this up. But yeah, I really appreciate everybody hanging out with me. It's obviously not the normal time that I stream, so it's a little bit more quiet today. I will jump in and just read some of the chat to see what's going on, and maybe prep for answering some questions on Friday's live stream. Let me go ahead and take a look real quick here just to see. We got JR. Love seeing you here, buddy. I'm glad that you could make it. We've got Don and Bobby hanging out and chatting in here. Oh, yes. JR has been trading people. I think that coin is called We the People, I think. And it's actually performing really well on many of the exchanges that it's been listed on for a long time. Very technical in the way that it is acted. Some places it trades as 1,000 people or maybe even 100 people. But yeah, really clean trading coin. We can always look at that on Friday if there's time. Let's see. Bobby says he's just making conversation. There's Jedi, probably late. Oh, yes, late but technical issues. Oh, this time it was technical issues. Jeez. Oh, it's called Constitution DAO. That's what it is. Isn't there? I thought it was called We the People. Or maybe that's just their logo says that. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe and, of course, stay safe. With all of that said, Landy out.